Nigeria has exited its worst economic recession in more than 2 decades, notching up growth of 0.55% in the second quarter of 2017. In the National Bureau of Statistics report released today, the data show that the economic recovery was driven by improved performance of oil, agriculture, manufacturing, and trade sectors of the economy. There are statistics to show that the growth in the economy, but beyond the statistics, what are the real pictures? Let's get perspectives on these issues and insight on this. I have Dr. Adeyemi Dikbeolu. He's a special advisor to President Muhammadu Buhari on economic matters. He's in our Abuja studio. And also here I have Mr. Martin Tonovo, a former presidential candidate of the NCP, who is in our Lagos studio. Let me quickly go to our Abuja studio with Dr. Dikbeolu. Dr. Dikbeolu, it's a pleasure having you join us on the program tonight. Good news for you and your team, and especially for the nation. It's being a sad song sung by a lot of people as the nation went into recession. And now that the nation is out of recession, you did say that we need to tread softly. What are your fears?
Thank you very much, Sheung. It's good to be here. I think the first thing to emphasize, of course, is that the move out of recession is partly a story foretold, in the sense that over the past few months, we have had significant indications of improvements in the economy, increased foreign reserve earnings, reducing inflation, a positive purchasing managers indices over the past 5 months or thereabouts. So by and large, there's also the element of the fact that oil prices have held up relatively, and production has, of course, ramped up. The fears, first and foremost, of course, would be any exogenous shocks that take you out of your current growth trajectory, by which I mean we have to remain steady to avoid policy slippages, but we also have to remain steady in ensuring that all sectors of the economy are contributing their quota to continued growth, be it oil, be it agriculture, be it manufacturing, indeed solid minerals as well. But also a host of other activities that have underpinned economic activity, such as sustaining consumption demand, making sure salaries are paid, and also ensuring that the social programs, as much as possible, help to lift consumption in various parts of the country.
Dr. Dikbeolu, for a lot of Nigerians, millions of them, this is a political program where we talk about policy and governance of government and what politicians are doing to better the lives of average Nigerians. For a lot of people who are watching right now, this will sound like a theoretical maneuverings from a statistician. Practically speaking, how and when do you think an average Nigerian will be feeling the effect of this growth?
Okay, thank you very much, Sheung. That is quite well understood, in the sense that ultimately economic development must be about the improved welfare of the ordinary person. I think the critical thing, and I would emphasize it, is that once you're on a positive trajectory, and if you look at the graphs, you would see that we bottomed out, and now we are rising steadily out of negative territory and also now into positive territory. So the first thing, of course, is even just improving the mood and helping people to invest more, and therefore people are no longer taking decisions to try and cut back on expenses. And indeed, as we see time going on, it will reflect in increased employment, but that is usually a lagging indicator. It takes some time for those things to begin to hit people's hands. But in addition, as the economy picks up speed, what you will expect also is that several parts of the economy, including tax revenues, will begin to increase, and therefore some of the capital investments being made by government will be able to be of such scale that they will generate employment as well. Indeed, take the social programs, for instance. If there is a bit more resources, you can also expect a ramping up of the social programs to desired levels. So the impact, as I said, will take a few months, give or take, but the important thing is the improved optimism that comes with the upward trajectory of the economy and the willingness of people now to invest rather than hide their money for safety under their mattresses.
Optimism, so you've said, for some people who may not have this kind of optimism, or some of the people, hundreds of them who lost their jobs in the last 6 months or so, in that report and the response that the federal government gave today, it still shows a lot of effects of unemployment that is relatively high. Where would the jobs be coming from? And perhaps how soon, apart from the welfare packages that the federal government has, where are you looking at in creating the jobs?
Thank you very much. Yes, as I said earlier, you know, the economy sort of has to begin to pick up before the jobs begin to be generated. But going forward, I can see 3 distinct areas in which the jobs will be coming. First and foremost is in the productive sectors of the economy. In other words, in agriculture, for instance, which is growing and has retained its growth. Same thing for solid minerals, increasingly manufacturing as well. So all the sectors of the economy, even trade, all the sectors of the economy that absorb large numbers of people will begin to generate jobs. But in addition to that, as you rightly pointed out, there are direct interventions of government. I give you the example of the N-Power program, for instance, whereby 200,000 young people, graduates, were employed last year, and another 300,000 are set to be employed. Again, yes, it doesn't, it's a slight figure compared to the amount of unemployment that exists. But again, what it does is, first of all, apart from giving young people some spending money and thereby boosting consumption in the economy, it's also saving the people who are spending money on them some resources. But the third area, and is linked to that, are programs that will, by themselves, employ large numbers of people. So as we ramp up, for instance, on the Family Homes Fund, the construction of socially affordable houses, what you will find is that large numbers of people can be employed. And so once the financing is all watertight and the program gets up and running, I'm told, for instance, and industry specialists will probably correct me, but I'm told, for instance, that you can generate 15 to 17 jobs per house if you build a house. Now, if you now build 100,000 houses, for instance, that's quite a large number of jobs that can be generated. Closely related to that, and I go back to the social investment program, are things like the homegrown school feeding program. It must be seen from its benefits of feeding young children. It must be seen from the benefits of giving them the nutrition and helping them to avoid stunting and to have better attention in school and all that. But the value chain behind it must also be appreciated. In other words, it's one program where, when it's fully up and running across the country, there's a primary school in every community in this country. So if every community has a primary school where children are being fed, it means the farmers in that locality will also be selling some of their, let's use Gary as an example, selling some of their cassava. Now, the person who turns cassava into Gary is a processor, is also benefiting. Person who's transporting that to where it's going to be used and produced and made into food is benefiting. The caterer who is turning that Gary into a bar and is employing cooks and stewards is also benefiting. The person who produces packaging for that program is also benefiting. So in summary, what I'm saying is that the traditional places where you get jobs, agri, industry, solid minerals, will contribute their quota. You will get direct contributions.
Let me get reaction from the opposition party.